There's an old Chinese saying, favorable timing, geographical and human conditions. Today I want to talk about a more modern version of that wisdom. If you want upward mobility, you need to place yourself where upward mobility is possible. One of the most important economists studying this today is Raj Chetty from Harvard University. He's famous for discovering large-scale social patterns using enormous datasets. Chetty asked a fascinating question. Imagine two children. Same intelligence, same work ethic. Both born into families in the bottom 20% of income. One grows up in San Jose, the heart of Silicon Valley. The other grows up in Charlotte. Both are decent cities. But Silicon Valley has vastly more innovation, opportunity, elite networks, and economic dynamism. So what are the odds these children will rise economically as adults? This is called intergenerational mobility, the ability to move into a higher social class than your parents. Chetty analyzed millions of tax records across the United States. He found that by age 30, the child from San Jose had about a 12.9% chance of reaching the top 20% of income. The child from Charlotte had only a 4.4% chance. Same country, same era, same system. Completely different outcomes, because of location. That's the first lesson. The world is geographically unequal. Some places are simply better launch pads. And the good news is this. Even if you weren't born in the right place, you can move. But usually, the earlier, the better. This brings us to the first concept. Social capital. Social capital basically means your network of human relationships. But not all relationships are equally valuable for upward mobility. In another famous study, Raj Chetty analyzed over 21 billion Facebook friendships involving more than 72 million Americans between the ages of 25 and 44. He measured 3 types of social capital. First, economic connectedness. This means friendships between people from different income classes. Second, social cohesion. How tightly connected your friend group is. Third, civic engagement. Participation in community activities and volunteer organizations. So which one most strongly predicted upward mobility for poor children? Not community involvement. Not tight friendship circles. It was economic connectedness. In plain English, if you want to become wealthy, it helps enormously to know wealthy people. Not because rich friends directly hand you money, but because they expose you to invisible knowledge. What behavior is considered professional? How do elite people think? Which careers matter? How do you apply to top universities? What industries are emerging? Wealthy families rarely hide this knowledge intentionally. It's just normal inside their world. But if you grow up outside that world, you may never encounter it. That's why social position matters so much. Now some people hear this and immediately conclude, okay, so I just need to network upward. Not exactly. Simple exposure isn't enough. Chetty found another important phenomenon called friending bias. Even when rich and poor people share the same environment, like attending the same school, they still tend to separate socially. People naturally form friendships with others who resemble themselves. That's normal human behavior. So how do you overcome that barrier? Interestingly, smaller and more stable groups reduce friending bias. When people repeatedly work together under real conditions, social walls weaken. This is why military service, sports teams, research labs, startups, and difficult collaborative projects often create unusually strong cross-class relationships. The key insight is this. Real trust is built through shared tasks. Not small talk. Not networking events. Not collecting contacts. The strongest social bonds emerge when people solve problems together under pressure. Humans trust people whose behavior they've witnessed in difficult situations. But opportunities for deep collaboration are relatively rare. So how else can people improve their social position? That brings us to the second concept, structural holes. This idea was developed by sociologist Ronald Burt. A structural hole exists when two social networks are disconnected from each other. The person standing between them gains extraordinary advantages. Burt called this the broker position. Or more simply, the connector. Imagine a company where engineers form one network and salespeople form another. The engineers don't understand market realities. The sales team doesn't understand technical limitations. Conflict constantly appears. Now imagine one person who understands both programming and business logic. That person becomes indispensable. They translate between worlds. And according to Bert's research, people occupying structural holes are promoted faster, evaluated more positively, and generate more innovative ideas. Why? Because information flows through them. They see multiple perspectives at once. They are not merely specialists. They become interfaces between systems. This idea resembles another famous theory from sociologist Mark Granovetter called the strength of weak ties. Strong ties. Your closest friends usually know the same things you know. Weak ties. Acquaintances outside your immediate circle often provide new opportunities and new information. Strong ties provide emotional support. Weak ties provide novelty. Structural holes go even further. A broker doesn't just transmit information. A broker translates information. They convert one world's language into another world's language. Technology into business. Art into product design. Politics into economics. That translation itself creates value. One of the most fascinating historical examples is Deng Xiaoping. Inside the Chinese Communist movement, there were historically two very different groups. One consisted of revolutionary military leaders from rural base areas. The other consisted of highly educated underground intellectuals operating in major cities. These groups often distrusted each other. Deng Xiaoping uniquely bridged both worlds. He possessed revolutionary military credibility, but also international exposure and economic understanding. Some leaders only understood ideology. Others only understood administration. Deng could translate between political language and developmental language. That bridging ability became essential during China's economic reforms. The final tool is the simplest: move. Sometimes the most important life decision is geographical. If your current environment offers little opportunity, you are allowed to leave. In fact, sometimes leaving is necessary. Recent research in the United Kingdom using millions of Facebook relationship records found again that children growing up in areas with more cross-class friendships achieved substantially higher adult incomes. And timing matters enormously. Another Chetty study found that for every additional year a child spends in a better neighborhood, long-term adult outcomes improve significantly. Children absorb models from surrounding adults. Environment shapes aspiration. The people around you quietly define what feels normal, possible, and desirable. That's why moving can matter more than self-help techniques. A declining city shapes people differently than a dynamic one. A stagnant organization shapes people differently than a fast-moving one. There's an old saying online: the wealthy preserve tradition. The poor must leave home. Historically, stable societies encouraged people to stay rooted. But in the modern world, opportunity is mobile. You are not a tree. You can relocate toward better networks, stronger industries, higher talent density, and greater economic connectedness. And importantly, this is not begging for access. Healthy elite networks actually need outsiders. If wealthy circles contain only wealthy people, they become stagnant and decadent. Long-term systems require fresh perspectives and new energy. So the correct mindset is not, how can I get protection from powerful people? The correct mindset is, what unique value can I provide at the intersection between worlds? That is the mentality of a strong connector. Imagine a domestic worker serving wealthy families in an elite neighborhood. If she only performs labor, she remains labor. But if she learns educational philosophies, business norms, and high standards from wealthy households, and then connects those ideas back into her own community, she becomes a structural bridge. Position itself is a form of capital. Coordinates shape destiny. Sometimes being in the right place matters more than possessing the right knowledge. Talented people should never allow themselves to be trapped permanently by a bad environment. There are always better worlds waiting somewhere else. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.